Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's daf, which is SUKKAH Nun Vav, the last and final daf of our Masechta. We begin on Nun Hey with base 2 lines from the bottom at the 2 dots. Ubechiluk lechem apanim v'chulu. Yesterday we discussed that although typically every week featured a different mishmar, different group of kohanim who do the avodah of the korbanos in the Mikdash, there were some exceptions, however. Shalish regalim, 3 times a year during Yomim Tovim, all the mishmaris, all the kohanim would gather and would have equal privilege to do avodah, to have the korbanos. However, within the korbanos brought throughout the Yomim Tovim, we have several categories. We have korbanos which are machmas haregel, they are Yom Tov related korbanos, in which all mishmaris, all kohanim have equal rights. We learned that from our pasuk. However, korbanos brought on Yom Tov, which were not necessarily Yom Tov related, to Midin, or somebody's private neder or nedava, which he happened to bring on Yom Tov. Those korbanos were earmarked for that mishmar, which was zmanoi kavua. It was his time, his designated week to do avodah in the Mikdash. The Mishnah, however, tells us that when it comes to lechem apanim, that's an exception. Although lechem apanim is not really Yom Tov related. In fact, it was placed on the shulchan last Shabbos. And now you're simply removing that lechem come Shabbos Sukkos. Still, we learn from a pasuk that the lechem apanim would be distributed equally amongst all the kohanim present in the Beis HaMikdash during that Shabbos of Yom Tov. That takes us to our Gemara. Ubechiluk lechem apanim, all mishmaris would share the lechem apanim equally amongst themselves. Tana Rabbanan minayin. How do we know that? Minayin shekol mishmaris shavais bechiluk lechem apanim. How do we know? All mishmaris have an equal chelik in lechem apanim distributed on Shabbos, which happens to be Yom Tov. Tamad loymar chelik chelik. So this is the continuation of that pasuk, which we learned yesterday, which is found 4 lines from the bottom on Nun Hamid base. Ubab chalavas nafshe v'sheris. The Gemara told us that it's speaking about Yom Tov, where all the kohanim will serve equally, and the pasuk continues chelek kechelek kechelu. So it's actually the next pasuk. We learn from here kechelek avoda kach chelek achila. Just as all kohanim have an equal portion in avoda, they can serve on Yom Tov. Likewise, when it comes to achila, eating the korbanos, they all have equal rights. Now, which achila are we speaking about? Those korbanos which they served, which they were makriv? Then it's pashut, of course. Umay achila, what achila are we speaking? Ilim korbanos, the korbanos where they all had a chilik and they had krav of the korbanos. That's obvious. If you're makriv, then you can eat. If all the mishmaras can serve equally during regal, if it's a Yom Tov related korban, of course they can have it as an achila. Mihasam nafka, we already know that concept from elsewhere, that when you're makriv, you eat. It's inseparable. In fact, achila is really part of the kapara of the korban. L'koyin ha-makriv oiseh lo itiyah. The achila was granted to the koyin who serves, who's makriv, who does the avodas of all the mishmaras. Have a chelik in the avodah of korbanos regal, of course achila as well. Why does the pasuk have to add chelik yoychelu? Concludes the Gemara. Apparently, the Torah is teaching us something, an exception. Ela lechem apanim. When it comes to lechem apanim, despite the fact there was no avodah today, you see, although they were makter the bazichen, the fragrance, the keteris of lechem apanim on mizbeach this Shabbos, the Shabbos that is going to be eaten. However, Tosfos points out it's not avodah in the guf halechem. You're not actually affecting change in the lechem itself. It's not directly related to the material, to the lechem material itself, and therefore it's a chiddush, because all the mishmaros are not really involved in the avodah of this lechem that happens to be taken off the shulchan today and eaten today. Still, the Torah tells us they all get an equal chance. Not only that, keep in mind The lechem apanim isn't really a Yom Tov related item. It's a recurring thing. Every week you put on new lechem apanim. And still the pasuk tells us this is an exception to the rule. Generally, all the mishmaros will partake in the avodah and achila of Yom Tov related karbonis, but otherwise not. Tmidim, etc., they don't really have a chelik. That's designated for the specific mishmar of today. But when it comes to lechem apanim, chelik yechelik yechilu. Yochel af b'choybes habois shaloi machmas haregel b'regel. Perhaps, just as we grant privileges to all the Kehanim, equal privilege on Yom Tov, they can work, they can eat, perhaps it applies to even obligatory karbonis, which happen to be coming on Yom Tov, but they're shaloi machmas haregel. They're not on account of Yom Tov. A tamid happens to be brought today, but you bring tamid every day. Would I say that? No. Talmud loymar. Levad mimim karav ala avos. When we say all mishmaros have equal rights, it's not referring to those karbanos which were already swapped by the parents. What does that mean? Ma machru avos elazeh. What deal, what exchange did the forefathers, the patriarchs of the mishmaros, the founders of the 24 mishmaros, what deal did they make amongst themselves? Ani b'shabbati, look, I serve in my week. Va'ata b'shabbat, and you serve in your week. Fair and square. So when it comes to karbanos, which are brought on a daily or weekly basis, to meet them, even the darim and the which aren't Yom Tov related, that is given to the mishmar. That's their right. That's the deal, which was established way back when they established the mishmaris. Yom Tov related items, Shalmi Chagiga, Elis Re'iyah, Soyer Chatas, things which are Yom Tov related, that's different. That's not included in the original deal. That we know from a pasuk. To be granted to all the mishmaros equally. So we covered basically everything except for lechem apanim. And that's an exception. Here we have an exception to the pasuk, although it's not Yom Tov related. Although nobody except for that mishmar was involved in the avodah, Torah tells you, chelik yechelik yechelu. For some reason, lechem apanim is different. It works by different rules, and it's distributed equally amongst all the koyanim who happen to be present on that Shabbos, which is Yom Tov. On Sukkot we have shtei halechem, which were chametz. Mishnah continues, Batzeres omer lo hilech chametz. Right? We give him a piece of matzah and a piece of chametz. He gets a piece of the lechem apanim, which happens to be matzah, a piece of the shtei halechem, which happens to be chametz. That takes us to this machlekes, which is actually Sukkot related. Itma, Rav Omar, Sukkah v'achach zman. Come the first day of Sukkot, you're entering the Sukkah to have your Suda, you have two brachas to make. Asher Girchanu, Leisha B'Sukkah, and Shechiyanu. Which one comes first? Rav Omar, Sukkah v'achach zman. First, Leisha B'Sukkah, and then Shechiyanu. Rabba, Baruchana, Omar, just the opposite. Zman, first comes Shechiyanu, which is a more common bracha, v'achach Sukkah, and then comes Leisha B'Sukkah. Explains the Gemara. Why? Rav Amar Sukkah v'achach zman. First Leisha B'Sukkah, and then Shechiyanu. Chiyuv d'yom ha'adif. Look, Leisha B'Sukkah is time related. It's unique to this Yom Tov. Zman is a generic mitzvah, bracha. It's made on many occasions. It's not uniquely Sukkah or Sukkot related. Whereas Leisha B'Sukkah, that's Chiyuv d'yom. That's special for today. That comes first, and then comes Zman. Rabba Baruchana Omar, Zman v'achakach Sukkah. Why? Because the bracha of Shechiyanu is Tadr. It's a commonly recited bracha. Tadr v'she'ena Tadr. Whereas Leisha B'Sukkah doesn't come as frequently as Zman, and therefore Tadr Kaidem. We follow the formula: Tadr v'she'ena Tadr, Tadr Kaidem. We meant to say or address or mimikayim something which is more common first, and then the uncommon item. Let's go to Rashi, off to the right. Sukkah v'achach zman. Mi shaloi birach shechiyanu b'asiyasa. So you didn't make shechiyanu when you built a sukkah. Shoisai suvay medos was already pre-built. V'tani perak lulav arava. Based on that Gemara, that you meant to make the shechiyanu while you build a sukkah. So let's say you haven't built it. It's been standing. So then when you enter the sukkah, Shenichnas Leishav Mevarach Shtayim, 2 brachas. Sukkah Bezman, Shechiyanu, and Leishav B'Sukkah. V'amarav, Sukkah Lema B'Reishav, other Zman. Rabbah says the other way around. First comes Zman because it's Tadr. Shenai B'Kolor Gol. It's a frequent brach. It's Tadr, and therefore Tadr Kodim. So you have a choice. Leishav B'Sukkah, Shechiyanu, which one's first? Rav says, Leishav B'Sukkah, Chiyuva D'Yayma. It relates to today's mitzvah. And then comes Shechiyanu. Rabbah B'Brachana, Shechiyanu first because it's Tadr. Lema, says the Gemara, Lema Rabbah B'Brachana, perhaps these two Amirayim are discussing a topic which was already discussed in a slightly different way between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beplukta de Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel kamifliki. Their machlokes is in line, is consistent with a similar machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel in Meseches Brachos. Etan Rabban, we learned in a brayz. Dvarim shebein Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel basuda. The following Suda-related topics were in dispute between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. For instance, come Kiddush. You have 2 brachos. Bar Priya Gofen, Yain, Birchas HaYain, a commonly recited bracha, and you have Birchas HaYoim, Asher Kirchano b'mitzvaysav v'rotzav. You're relating to Dushas HaYoim. So which one's first? Machlekes. B'Shama Omer, Mevarach al HaYoim. First, you make the bracha which relates to Kedushas HaYoim, v'achakach Mevarach al HaYain, and then Hagofen. U'Beis Omer, the other way around. Mevarach al HaYain. First the Hagofen, v'achakach Mevarach al HaYoim, and then the Birchas HaYoim. Explains the Gemara. Beis Shammai Omer Mevarach al HaYoim, and only then v'achakach Mevarach al HaYain. You know why? Shahayoim goyrem liyayin shiyav. We have 2 reasons. First of all, what's the catalyst? The day, Shabbos, is what brings about the Kiddush. He's sort of the source of Kiddush. He generates the Kiddush. So of course he comes first. First comes the source, the father, and then the offspring. Shahayoim goyrem liyayin shiyav. That's number 2. That's number 1. And number 2, look at the order and in time. What came first? First came Shabbos, and then the wine arrived at the table. So, on account of both svaris, Beis Shammai maintain you first make a bracha which relates to the yom, which brought about the kiddush. You first make a bracha on the yom which preceded the kiddush in time. It came before the yom. And then you make Birchas HaYain. For the following 2 reasons. Number 1, Shayain Goyrim L'Kedusha Sirtei Amer. If you have no wine, you can't make Kiddush. So really, technically, the wine is bringing the Kiddush about. So that comes first. Number 2, Davar Achar Birchas HaYain Tedira. U'Birchas HaYain Eina Tedira. What's a more commonly said bracha? Hagafen. Tadr, she'ena tadr, tadr kodim. You have a choice between common and uncommon. The tadr comes first. So according to Beis Shammai, the yaim comes first. He's a source of the kiddush. He's a source of the yaim. Number 2, the yaim arrived before the yain arrived. According to Beis Hillel, the yain comes first because without the yain you have nothing. Number 2, it's more tadr. There's more figures at this point. Perhaps this discussion is related to our previous discussion. What takes precedence? The yaim or the yain? The yaim or shechiyanu? Seems to be slightly related. Lema shall we propose Rav, who said that Leisha Basuk, the yaim, comes before shechiyanu. Rav Damak Beis Shammai, who hold that Kiddush HaYaim comes before yain, because the yaim is the focal point. That's primary. Yain is secondary. And likewise over here, Shechiyanu is secondary. So it seems to be on the same track. Whereas Rabbi holds that the Shechiyanu comes first, because Tadr takes precedence, it's like Beis Hillel. The Birchas HaYain comes before Birchas HaYain because of Tadr. Is that so? No, says the Gemara. Not necessarily. Who says these 2 things have to be linked? Amalach Rav can respond as follows. I know the Amri Afilu Beis Hillel. You know what? I could be following even Beis Hillel. So although I maintain Leisha B'Sukkah precedes Shechiyanu, that can work with Beis Hillel, who hold that Yain comes before Yaim. You know why? Ad kan like Amri Beis Hillel Hasam. Perhaps it's only over there by Kiddush that Beis Hillel say Yain first, because we have two reasons. Remember, we have two reasons. Ela Shayain Goyrim the Kedusha Shati Amr. Aside from the fact that Yain is a more commonly said bracha, as opposed to Yain, which isn't, Yain brings about the Kiddush. Without wine, you have nothing to talk about. So you have two reasons. Oh, of course, it makes sense to precede the Yain. Aval Hachav, when it comes to Sukkos, it's true that Shechiyanu is Tadr, as opposed to Leisha B'Sukkah, which isn't, but that's only one factor. You don't have that second factor here. The Zman doesn't make the Leisha B'Sukkah. Aval Hachav, Ilav Zman. Even without Zman Miloi Amrin on Sukkah, do we not say Leisha B'Sukkah? Second day of Sukkahs. We don't have Shechiyanu, we still say Leisha B'Sukkah. So you don't have that factor at play, and therefore says Rav, without two factors opposing, the svara of Chayva Sayyim takes over. Leisha B'Sukkah relates to the uniqueness of today, the uniqueness of Mitzvah Sukkah, which is special for today, and that overrides Shechiyanu, which is a more general bracha. So that's on one side of the coin. Rav says he can be following Beis Shammai, he can be following Beis Hillel. Don't commit me to one or the other. On the other hand, Rabbi will say, likewise, don't tie me, don't link me necessarily to Beis Hillel, even though I maintain that Zman comes before Leisha B'Sukkah, which sounds similar to Beis Hillel, that the commonly said bracha comes first. No, I know the Amri Afilu Beis Shammai. How can we follow even Beis Shammai, who hold that Kiddush comes before Yain? It's unrelated to Sukkah. Ad kan like Amri Beis Shammai Hasam. You know why? It's only over there. Beis Shammai will say that Kiddush Hayayin precedes Birchas Hayayin Ela Shayayin Goyrim Liyayin Shiyave, because over there you have a strong svara that put Yayin ahead of the Yayin. The Yaim is the catalyst. He's the goyrem to the Kiddush. Of course he comes first. Aval Hacha, but when it comes to Leisha B'Sukkah, Ilav Sukkah, even without a Sukkah, Milay Amrina and Zman, could we not say Shechiyanu on Yom Tov of Sukkahs? A traveler, he doesn't have a Sukkah, he'll make Shechiyanu on account of Yom Tov. So it's not the Sukkah, it's not the Leisha B'Sukkah. That doesn't generate the Shechiyanu, it's unrelated to each other, and therefore, in our case, even Beis Shammai perhaps would agree that Shechiyanu can come first. So the Gemara figured that the two discussions are related, and the Gemara disconnected them. So anyways, getting back to our sugya, entering the sukkah, Leisha B'Sukkah or Shechiyanu, which one comes first? We have machlekes. So let's take a look at our Mishnah and try to bring a raya one way or the other. Tanan says on Shavuos, we distribute two things to all the kehanim: lechem apanim, which is technically matzah, and shtei lechem brought on sukkahs, which are uniquely Shavuos, uniquely Shavuos related. That's the chayvas hayom. That happens to be chametz. So you allot a piece of each of the lechem apanim and the shtei lechem to each kohen. And what do we tell him? In what order do we give it to him? What's the priority here? First we give him lechem apanim, which is a more general carbon. It's not necessarily Shavuos related. And only then helech chametz. V'hacha the chametz ikar. In this case, what's the ikar? What's primary? What's uniquely Shavuos? The chametz. Matzah tafel. Matzah lechem apanim is secondary. It's not connected to Shavuos. Uktani helech matzah helech chametz. And in what order does the Mishnah list it? First matzah, apparently because tadir comes first, something which is more frequent than common, takes priority, and then only then chametz. V'tiyufta de Rav. This is a challenge to Rav, who says something which is uniquely related to today comes first, takes precedence over commonness and frequency. So according to our Mishnah, it would seem that Shechianu comes before Leisha Basukkah. It's a kasha and Rav. Amalach Rav Tanoi. Rav responds by saying, you're right, it's a machlekes Tanaim, and I follow one shita. Where do we find the machlekes? The Sanya, Helach Matzah, Helach Chametz. So according to Tanakama, Tadir comes first. Matzah, which is Lechem Apanim, that's more common, that comes first. Abba Shol, Aimer, no. Helach Chametz, Helach Matzah. First comes Chametz because that's Chayvasayim, and then only then Matzah, and I follow that shita. Darash Rav Nachman bar Rav Chizda, loy kedivrei Rav Damar Sukkah v'achachzman. Rav Nachman Rav Chizda announced in his shir, we're not going to follow Rav that Leisha Basukkah comes before Shechianu. Ella rather Zman v'achach Sukkah. First comes Shechianu on account of its frequency, and then comes Sukkah. That was his shita. Rav Sheshes Breda Rav Idi Omar Sukkah v'achachzman. No, we follow Rav. First the Chayvas Hayayim and then Shechianu. In fact, v'hilchasa, and that's the halacha sukkah v'achachzman, as we do today. The Mishnah continued, Mishmash is manikavua v'chulu v'sharka manisibur. So although all the mishmaris can partake, have equal privilege in all the carbon, all the Yom Tov related karbanis, but when it comes to a carbon which is not Yom Tov related, who gets the rights to that? The Mishmash is manikavua, the mishmar who was designated for this week. And the Mishnah adds that they'll do all the karbanis. See, but what are we including by saying that? Lasuye mai. What else do they have? Lasuye par helam davar shal tzibur. Let's say the tzibur did an avera which requires a par helam davar. Usir avedis kuchav. If served avedis zar, to bring a sar. That's not Yom Tov related, although perhaps it occurred on Yom Tov, but it's not a Yom Tov carbon. Therefore, that mishmar who is meant to serve on that day gets the rights to these karbanis. Not only that, he does everything. I'll show you my one. Does that come into include? I'll show you kayetz mizbeach. Kayetz is like a dessert. Dried figs, Rashi says. So the mizbeach was idle, no karbanis throughout the day, let's say. They would bring oilais and keep the mizbeach active. Kayetz, like a dessert. So that isn't Yom Tov related. It's just to keep the mizbeach going. And that's the domain of the local mishmar rather than all the mishmars collectively. So in conclusion, we learn from a pasuk that Yom Tov related karbanis are granted to all the mishmars who happen to be there on Yom Tov. Non-Yom Tov related karbanis, Tamidin, the ones that we just mentioned now, belongs to that specific mishmar. And as far as achila, well, whatever you makriv, you have a chilek and achila as well. We have one exception, which is lechem apanim. We learn from a pasuk that's distributed equally amongst all kohanim, despite the fact that it's not really a Yom Tov related carbon. Continues the Mishnah. Just as we spoke about lechem apanim being distributed equally, if it's Shabbos that happens to be Yom Tov, even Yom Tov hasamach l'Shabbos. Let's say it's not Shabbos Yom Tov. Yom Tov is situated next door to Shabbos. Bein milafanea, whether before Shabbos, bein milachareh, or after Shabbos. In which case, Shabbos is separate from, it's not Yom Tov. But since it was right next to Yom Tov, which necessitated early arrival or late staying, meaning the mishmars couldn't just come for Yom Tov, they had to be there for Shabbos. Or they had to stay for Shabbos or come before Shabbos. How you call mishmar Shabbos b'chiluk lechem apanim? Even in this case, we apply the same formula. All mishmaros have an equal schus and lechem apanim. However, let's say there's a day between Shabbos and Yom Tov. So Yom Tov ends on Thursday. Technically, they can go home on Friday. They elected to stay over Shabbos. So now everybody's here for Shabbos. Or conversely, if Yom Tov falls out on a Monday, technically they could have arrived on Sunday. They elected to come before Shabbos. So it's not Shabbos on Yom Tov. It isn't right next door to Yom Tov. It's a day removed. What happens then? In this case, we don't apply the same formula as we mentioned earlier. We don't distribute it equally, but we still accommodate them somewhat. Mishmar shezman kavua, the mishmar who's meant to serve this week, hayinotel eser chalis. So there were 12 chalis of lechem apanim. The local mishmar would get the majority, 10. And all those mishmars who stayed behind or came early, they'll take 2 chalis and distribute those amongst themselves. So it's not equal rights, but something they do get. What about your typical Shabbos throughout the year, unrelated to Yom Tov? How do they give out the lechem apanim? Hanichnas neitel sheish, the incoming mishmar would get 6, vayetze neitel sheish, and the outgoing mishmar another 6. So keep in mind that Shabbos was the changing of the guard. Right? Last week's mishmar would complete their service on Shabbos. They would bring the Talmud and the Musaf, and that's it, and go home, or at least leave the Mikdash. And the incoming mishmar would take over in the middle of the day. Lechem apanim was removed from the shulchan on a weekly basis on Shabbos. So it was split up between the incoming and outgoing mishmar, 6 and 6. Rabbi Yehuda actually was a bit lopsided. Hanichnas neitel sheva, the incoming mishmar would get an extra 2, a total of 7. And the outgoing mishmar 5. The Gemara explains the reason for this. Hanichnas and cholkim b'tzafen, the incoming mishmar would get their portions on the tzafan side of the Azara, which was a more prominent location. That's where they would be makrib the kachri kachim. So this is indicative of the fact that they're coming in to serve. Vayotzin b'darim, and the outgoing mishmar would get their portion in Durham to indicate that they were on the way out. However, Bilga, this is the name of a mishmar, they were penalized, as the Gemara will explain for us. They la'olam chaylekas b'darim, they always get their lechem apanim on the Durham side of the Azara as a knas. Not only that, v'tabato k'vor, and their ring through which they would put the head of the carbon to do shchita, their ring on the floor of the Azara was closed up. They couldn't maneuver it, they couldn't use it. They would have to use the next ring over. And also their kabi, in which they would deposit their knives, was closed off, blocked off. They would have to use their neighbor's kabi. Continues the Gemara, so Mishnah said that if Yom Tov is samach l'Shabbos, whether milfaneh or milachareh, we give the lechem apanim to all the mishmaros equally. What does this mean? Ilema, does the Mishnah mean lefaneh Yom Tov Rishon, the first day SUKKAH, let's say, fell out before Shabbos. Lachareh, we speak of Yom Tov falling out after Shabbos, Yom Tov Achron, so last day of SUKKAH. So is the Mishnah describing that scenario? First day of SUKKAH falls out on Friday. Last day of SUKKAH falls out on Sunday. Well, that's exactly Shabbos SUKKAH. Hainu Shabbos Shabbos Chag. Inevitably, that Shabbos will be SUKKAH. So that was already discussed yesterday. Ela lefaneh Yom Tov Achron. No, we're speaking about a different case. When we speak about Yom Tov falling out before Shabbos, we mean the last day of Yom Tov. Shmini Atzeres fell out on Friday. So Shabbos is already beyond SUKKAH. Or when we say Lachareh, Yom Tov falls out after SUKKAH, we meant Yom Tov Rishon, the first day of SUKKAH. So it's Shabbos and then SUKKAH. And the Chiddush is, although Shabbos is not Yom Tov, we still give all the Mishmaros equal rights in Lechem Apanim. My time and why? You see, this one is not learned from the Pasuk. Pasuk was speaking about on Yom Tov itself. So why is it so? Midrabanan. Let's be reasonable. Let's accommodate the Mishmaros who have to be here during that Shabbos on account of the upcoming or the past Yom Tov. My time. Since these came early or these stayed late, meaning there was no alternative. It was Yom Tov and then next day Shabbos, or Shabbos next day Yom Tov. Tikkun Rabbanan Musar Rabbanan established in a practice. They should have food, but they should distribute the champanim and eat with each other for fairness' sake. Chol Yom Echad. The Mishnah continued that typically you would take the 12 breads and split them equally amongst the incoming and outgoing mishmar, 6 and 6. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the incoming mishmar gets an extra 2, 7. What's the point of adding 2? Rabbi Yitzchak. You know why? This was payment for closing the doors, which were opened by the mishmar in the morning. The outgoing mishmar opens the doors of the Beis HaMikdash, and they leave town. Leave the doors open. We have to close your doors? Pay us. So they got an extra 2 breads for that. And this was a recurring formula. Every week, the outgoing only gets 5, the incoming 7. So let them turn to the incoming mishmar and say, dal, remove, cancel this practice, bedal, in exchange for canceling it next week. You're not really getting much. You're getting 7 this week, but only 5 next week. So what's the point? Amar Abaye, there's a common phrase. Boitzina, a small, undeveloped melon, tava is preferred, mikara, than a large, mature melon. Let's go to Rashi, about 3-4 lines down. Boitzina tava mikra, mashal heditu. It's just a common saying. Ha'imel chaveroi. So he promises his friend, Dalask tana ani naislach, b'mechubar. Here, take a look at this melon which is growing in the ground. If you want, take it. If you want, pick it now. If you wish, you can just leave it there until it grows. If the kara turns into this kara, this fully mature melon, leave it in my farm, come back later. So what would the recipient prefer? He prefers taking it right away. You never know what's going to happen. Maybe he's going to change his mind. Never give it to me. Perhaps I'm not going to need it. So grab it now. A bird in the hand is better than 2 in the book. Take it now. When it comes to the mishmars regarding lechem apanim, get it now, grab it. So this is the opportunity to take an extra 2, and they would take that extra now, knowing full and well that they're going to have to pay for it next week. Continues the Gemara 3 lines from the top. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Uba Musaf and Chalkin. I'll give you another carbon, which was split equally between the incoming and outgoing mishmars. Musafin. Now the carbon Musaf on Shabbos was technically brought by the outgoing mishmar. They would do Tamid Shal Shachar and Musaf. But as Rashi explains, the new mishmar will take over somewhat. They're going to be mahapech b'tzinoira. They're going to turn over the Ivarim on the Mizbeach to expedite the incineration process. So they were somewhat involved. Says Rabbi Yehuda, on account of that, we split it equally. They have equal rights to the Achil of the Musaf. Meisvei, listen to a kasha from our Brisa. Mishmar hayotzis, the outgoing mishmar. What's their role on Shabbos? What do they do? Oiseh tamid shel shachar u'masafin. Mishmar nechneses, the incoming mishmar, which just arrived. Oiseh tamid shel ben arbaim u'bazichen. They take care of the afternoon tamid, and then mark to the bazichim of the lechem apanim. That's the Brisa. Ve'ilu musafin chalkin like tani. There's no mention of splitting the musaf. That's a kasha of Yehuda. Says the Gemara, Hai Tana b'chalukah l'kamari. Whoever spoke about splitting privileges here, I'm not speaking about eating anything. They were mark of this, they were mark of that. We're not speaking about splitting up consumption rights. So it's unrelated to our discussion. Amar Rava, we have a Tana Dvei Shmuel, the Meir b'chalukah, which discusses allotment of karbonis, the achila rights, consumption rights, uba musaf and cholkin like tana. There's no mention of splitting the musaf. The Tana Dvei Shmuel. We learned in the Brisa of Bnei Shmuel, mishmar hayotzis, the outgoing mishmar oiseh tamid shel shachar, umusafin, right? Mishmar nechneses, the incoming mishmar. What do? Oiseh tamid shel ben arbaim ubazichen. Now, what about distributing the lechem apanim? So it worked as follows. 4 Kaihanim would enter the Azara as representatives of their respective groups. 2 Kaihanim from this Mishmar, the outgoing Mishmar, 2 Kaihanim from the incoming Mishmar. They split amongst themselves Lechem Apanim, as we mentioned earlier. So the Brisa does discuss allotment of Karbanis, splitting the Lechem Apanim. There's no mention of splitting the musaf. To Yufta, to Rav Yehuda, to Yufta. In fact, it's a refutation of Yehuda, who held that the musaf was split. We find no mention of that in the Brisa. Apparently, it's incorrect. So, summation: we discussed lechem apanim, which was consumed on a weekly basis on Shabbos, 12 breads. So, how did this go about? On a typical Shabbos, the Mishmar Nichnas would get their lechem apanim, of course, in Tzafon, unless they were from Bilga, but typically it was Bet Tzafon to indicate that they were coming in. The Mishmar Yoytze would get theirs Bet Durham to indicate that they're exiting. It was 6 and 6, according to Rabbi Yehuda, 7 and 5. Now, when Shabbos happens to be on Yom Tiv, or right next to Yom Tiv, all mishmaros got equal rights to lechem aponim. As we learned from a pasuk, kechel kechel kechel. However, if Shabbos is in close proximity to Yom Tov, but not next to it, mamish, it's a day apart. So you have Shabbos and a day and then Yom Tov, or Yom Tov, a weekday and then Shabbos. So we give the other mishmaros just 2, and the rest is given equally amongst the mishmar nichnas and mishmar yotzin. According to Rabbi Yehuda, keep in mind, we'll have to give the mishmar nichnas an extra 2. So instead of 5 and 5, it's going to be 6 and 4. Continue the Gemara. Hanachnos cholkim b'tzafin. So the incoming mishmar would get their lechem aponim on tzafin. Tan Rabbanan, the reason is hanachnos cholkim b'tzafin kadei sheirou sheinachnos, so that it's apparent that they're coming in. Everybody knows, oh, this is the new group, and they become familiar with them. They realize why they're going to be serving as opposed to the other ones. As opposed to the outgoing mishmar, they get their portion bedarim, which is not really such a prominent location in the Azora. Everybody will see it, they're on the way out. That was typically, but Bilga, this is the name of a mishmar, they will penalize. And they lost this privilege. They always get their lechem panim in the less significant location bedarim, even if they're on the way in. Taner Rabbanan, what's the background to the story? Ma said there was an incident involving Miriam Bas Bilga. Miriam, that was her name, and she was Bas Bilga. She was part of this mishmar of Bilga, part of this family, this group of Kehanim. Shehimira Das, unfortunately, she converted. V'holcha v'nises l'sardiot echad v'malchi Yevanim, and she went and got married to an officer, a Greek officer. She says this was during the time of Matasio ben Yechanan. Shenichnasu Yevanim la'Eichel. Eventually, Hashem brought the Yeshua during Chanukah. Sorry, before that. Shenichnasu Yevanim la'Eichel, when the Yevanim entered the Heichel, Hoysum va'etes b'sandola. She kicked with her sandal al gabe mizbeach. So she kicked on the mizbeach as an act of disrespect. Va'amar, and she said, "Lucas, Lucas." She addressed the mizbeach, "Wolf, wolf." You know, wolves are known for their keen hunting abilities. So, wolf, wolf, you're eating up all the karbanis. Ad masay ata machalem amaynesha Yisrael. How much longer are you just going to keep on consuming the money of Yisrael, eating up their karbanis? Vi ato imed aleim b'shas adchak. But in their time of need, when they're being attacked by the guy, you're not helping them out. So this is a very disrespectful expression directed at the Mizbeach. Eventually, when his Chanukah happened, as she says, so when they chased out the Yevanim, and Chachamim got wind of what she did, Kavos Tabata, they took her entire family and they penalized them. She belonged to Bilga. They took the entire mishmar. They applied a knas. Kavos Tabata, they closed up their ring, through which they would put the neck of the animal for shchita. So they'd have to use the ring next door. V'sasmos chaloina, they closed up their cubbies. Every mishmar had a tabas, had a cubby where they placed their knives. So that was one version of events. This was an account of Miriam's outburst. Some maintain there was a different version of events. The entire mishmar procrastinated. They delayed their arrival. When it was their turn, they took their time, which was indicative of lack of enthusiasm, lack of interest in Avodas HaMikdash. And his brother Yeshevav, meaning the next mishmar, which actually preceded Bilga, they were waiting for their arrival, they had to take over their place and continue their avoid until Bilga finally arrived. V'shimish tachtav, and they served instead of them. So the fact that they delayed, they procrastinated, indicated lack of interest, lack of enthusiasm, and therefore Chacham penalized them, took away their tabas, their chaloin, etc. So you have two versions of events. Either it was an account of Miriam's disrespect or the delay of the entire mishmar. Now, although typically a Russia's neighbor doesn't really benefit from his behavior. In fact, the opposite is true. Oila Rasha, Oila Shchena. The Rasha influences his neighbors as well and brings about detrimental results. But here we find something else. Shchene Bilga Nistakro. Bilga's neighbors, meaning the next Mishmar over, actually gained. Shebilga la'olam chalek is bedarim. As we said, Bilga always gets their lechem apanim and darim. V'yishev of achiv betzav, and yishev of all of their outgoing, they're on the way out, they'll get their lechem apanim betzav, and it's actually gained on the deal. Let's analyze the whole chain of events. According to the version that maintains that the entire Mishmar was guilty of disinterest and lack of enthusiasm, Hainu the Kansina Lukula Mishmar, we understand why they penalized the entire Mishmar. They lost their rights, they have to be bedarim, etc. They're all collectively guilty. But according to the first version, Miriam converted and she was disrespectful. So we apply collective punishment because of that. Mishum Barte, because of his daughter. Kansinalili Didei, we penalize the father. Why do that? The whole Mishmar is a suffer. Abaye in, yes, 100%. It's indicative of some deficiency in the entire family. Kedam Inshi, as is commonly said, Shusa Dinuka, a child's expression, his mode of speech, Bishuka out in the street, it came from somewhere. It's either from his father or his mother. So this attitude, this lack of covet expressed by Miriam was an expression of something which she was nurtured with. Some lack of respect which she experienced back at home, so all will suffer. The entire family is guilty for not raising her properly. Well, because of her father, because of her family, V'imi and her mother, Kansina Lakula Mishmara. Okay, fine, her father, mother, parents, but the entire Mishmar has to suffer. Chazal say that the punishment applied to the Rasha applies to the Shachan as well. Rashi will bring for us the Psukim by Nega. If there's a Nega in a home, sometimes even the neighbor has to suffer. So apparently he's also guilty somewhat. How could that be? Your neighbor is speaking Lashon Hara with you around. Where's your influence? Where's your ashpah? In fact, you're here. Should have influenced everybody in your neighborhood. So this einish applied to this particular individual, particular family, is really something deserving. The entire Shevet, the entire Mishmar is deserving of this punishment, and therefore the Knas was applied to all equally and was kept in place, as Mepharshim say, L'man Yishmu V'yiro, to create a deterrent to everybody else. To be mindful of the fact that you have to be covered to the Shechina and have the right attitude. So Oila Rasha Oila Shechina, and the opposite is true as well. Toiv L'tzadik Toiv L'Shechina. The goodness of a tzaddik extends over to his neighbors, to his environment. He impacts everybody in a positive way. Shenemar Imru Tzadiki Toiv. Take a look at the tzaddik who exudes goodness. He's Toiv, but not only him. Kipri Ma'alalem Yechelu. Everybody else, Yechelu Lashon Rab. Everybody enjoys the fruit of the tzaddik. They're all impacted by his positive behavior and enjoy the consequences. Let's go to Rashi, 5 lines from the bottom. So if the entire Shevet, entire Mishmar, is guilty, fine. But in the first event, where it was only Miriam, why do we say the entire Shevet was penalized? Even the father, why would he get penalized on account of his daughter's misdeed? Answers the Gemara, when it comes to expressions, it's all a matter of nurturing. Mashal Hedit, the second time on the Amud we have a Mashal Hedit. Whatever this child speaks, he heard it at home. He's parroting what he heard at home. Af Zu, likewise by this Isha, if not for the fact that she overheard her father speaking like this about Avodah, what good is it? What benefit is it? She wouldn't have spoken this way. Shusa means dibur, speech, typical Shusa, Kedushin, Shusa Maloidan. And the maskana of the Gemara is the entire clan is guilty. We know this from the halach of Negoim. So if a nega is found in a home, they have to pull out the avonim. Nega be'evan should be mektsoi. Let's say there is a nega present on that stone, between two apartments. Shnein chotzin, they're both involved. They have to remove that stone. Although the nega was only on this side, not on that side, they both suffer. So this fellow got a nega because he had tzaras ayin. He was stingy, one of the reasons why a nega comes. And who suffers? Not only him, his friend as well. We learn from him. Says Rashi, certainly Toiv l'tzadik, Toiv l'shchenoi, the midah Toiv meruba, certainly midah Toiv is greater, more powerful. A tzaddik has a positive influence on all his surroundings. Hadron l'chachalal, u'slikala Masechah Sukkah. Baruch Hashem, we learned the whole Masechta together. We should be zeicha to learn many more together. Perhaps a fitting conclusion is the Yiratzin that we say when we leave the Sukkah. Yiratzin Fanecha, that next year around we should be zeicha to sit b'Sukkahs Oiroi Shel Av Yasin Amen v'Amen. Let's just make a quick recap on today's daf. So we discussed the sequence of the brachos on Sukkah. Is it Leisha B'Sukkah and then Shechayanu, or the other way around? According to Rab, first comes Sukkah because Chayvas Hayayim, then comes Zman. Rabbi Bachana says Zman, which is Tadar, precedes Sukkah. The Maskan of the Gemara is Sukkah v'achach Zman. How do we distribute the roles, the karbanis, on Yom Tov? So the Yom Tov related karbanis are done by everybody. All the mishmars have equal rights. The karbanis which are not Yom Tov related belong to the Mishmar Shezmana Kavua, examples of which are Tmidin, Parallel Davashal Tzibur, Seir Avodah Zarah, Kaita Mezbech, and Adar Davis. How do we distribute Lechem Panim? So we have 12 breads. Typically, on a typical Shabbos, the Mishmar Nichnas and Mishmar Yotze get 6 each. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the Mishmar Nichnas 7, because he had to close up those doors which were opened by the previous Mishmar. When Shabbos and Yom Tov fall out together, we have all the Mishmars distributing the Lechem Panim equally amongst themselves. And that applies even when it's Shabbos right next door to Yom Tov, and that's Midrabanan. However, if there's a day between, then the incoming and outgoing Mishmars get 5 each, according to Rabbi Yehuda 6 and 4. And all the other Mishmars who happen to be there, whether it's because they stuck around after Yom Tov or they came early, they take 2 chalos and distribute that amongst themselves. How do we split up the karbanis on Shabbos itself between the Mishmar Nichnas and Mishmar Yotze? The incoming Mishmar does Bezichel Lechem Panim and Tamash Ben Abayim. The Mishmar Yotze does the Tamash Shachar and Musafin. Regarding the location of Lechem Panim distribution, the Nichnas does Betzafin so that it's visible, it's nearer that he's the incoming Mishmar. Tzafin was the Iker Mokim of Shchitas Karbanis, at least Kachikachim. The outgoing Mishmar gets there at Bedarim. We have some exceptions. Bilga, she was penalized. She always gets her Lechem Panim Bedarim. Her Tabas is closed off, and her Chaloin is Sagar. We have 2 versions, either on account of Miriam not appreciating the benefit that we derive from the Mizbech, which is Mechaper, although not always visible, but it's a true fact and it's ongoing. She should not express herself in that manner, or because they didn't really exhibit much zrizas. They delayed their arrival, and therefore they were penalized. We concluded with Oile Rasha Oile Shchenai and Toiv L'Tzadik. Toiv L'Shchenai Shbezeicha, to learn many more Masechtas together. B'Simcha B'Tov Leiva Gesundheit Heit Ad V'Yes Geo Tzedek Mer Minu Amen. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov.
Sis besoy sato yiro ki lo nu was de yiro oh is de yiro no gil de no sis besoy sato yiro ki lo nu was de yiro I know you know sis besoy sato yiro ki lo nu was de yiro oh is de yiro no gil de no sis besoy sato yiro ki lo nu was de yiro gil the no was is the so SUKKAH. Kilanu was the yo. No gil the no was is the